When I first came across the Antonio Zatta's 1776 map of the northwestern parts of America and northeastern parts of Asia, I knew I was onto something. Welcome back to In Search of Tontonteac. We are still looking at the regnum surrounding Tontonteac such as Quivira and Teguayo. This map has a great deal of information, but one of the main pieces of information is right in the center at the top of this map. At the top of the map, which once translated from Italian, the northeastern parts of Asia and the northwestern parts of America were known only through mere conjectures, but as time passed, significant discoveries were made, leading to the formation of the present new geographical system of these parts. This system was approved on the 32nd of August 1774 by the Royal Academy of Sciences in Paris. It is hoped that with the recent expeditions carried out by the Spanish to the north of California and by the English from Hudson Bay to enter the South Sea through the north of America, geographers will be able to provide new insights. The Strait of Anian was believed to be a passageway from west coast of the United States through the United States to the east coast. The idea of Anian was derived from Ramusio's 1559 edition of Marco Polo's Travels, which describes Ania, or Annan, as a Chinese province accessed via a watery strait. Some speculate that this may have referred to the New World, though Polo himself places it somewhere near India. Anian's first cartographic appearance was only a few years later in a 1562 map by Giacomo Gastaldi seems to be the man responsible for Anian's presence in the New World. The idea was embraced by other cartographers and intellectuals of the period. John Donne sums the idea up in a poem, Anyan, if I go west by the Northwest Passage. Both the Kingdom of Anian and the Strait of Anian appear on the Zatta map. We have already seen other maps that show an Anian kingdom. It is most commonly speculated that Anian means Asian, but here is a little food for thought. What if this were to mean Kingdom of Amen? I am merely speculating based on the idea that Anians were also associated with the lost tribes of Israel. I was also given the idea that it means Aryan. The Aryan prior to World War II was traditionally believed to have been a group of Indo-European-speaking people who originated from the steppes of Central Asia and gradually migrated into the Indian subcontinent and Iran. Just south of the Strait of Anian, Zatta includes Fusang, which he describes as a Chinese colony. Fusang or Fusang is a settlement first documented by the Chinese Buddhist missionary Hui Shen in the 5th century. Hui Shen describes a land some 20,000 Chinese li east of the China coast. Fusang is further described in the 7th century Book of Liang by Yao Silian. There are also accounts that the land was settled 220 BC by a Chinese emperor of the Han dynasty. In later days, Fusang was commonly used in Chinese poetry to designate Japan. Nonetheless, the earliest and presumably most accurate references keep it distinct. In any case, Hui Shen's description of Fusang with regard to distance and geography corresponds more with the coastal lands of North America than with Japan. The French historian Joseph de Guigne, in his 1761 article, Le Fusang des Chinois est-il l'Amérique, promoted this idea. South of Fusang, we come across the legendary kingdom of Quivira. We see it placed right next to the Sierra Nevada mountains and once again close to Cape Mendocino. The cartographer Zaltieri, reading Coronado's actual accounts, moved Quivira further north near Anian, where Zatta places it and where it remained for several hundred years. Just south of the Salt Lake, we find the region of Teguayo or Tom. For the past few weeks, we have been diving in the Teguayo region. While in older maps the name appears sparingly and in various formats, sometimes a lake, sometimes a river, sometimes a city, sometimes a land, it was generally forgotten until the outlaw governor of New Spain, Diego de Penalosa, discovered references to it in the Benavides Memorial. Father Benavides was a Franciscan missionary active in New Mexico in the early 17th century. Benavides was eager to attract royal support for his evangelization projects and consequently wrote a stunning report of the wealth of the regions of Quivira and Teguayo. It was probably Benavides that first connected the two lands. Interestingly, in 1668, his public embarrassment and loss of status as New Mexico governor, Peñalosa fled to England and France. There he used the Benavides Memorial to promote a scheme of revenge against the Spanish crown. Peñalosa attempted to convince the monarchs of both France and England to invade part of New Spain to conquer a vast new kingdom called Teguayo. Although the plan never bore fruit, Teguayo was consistently present on maps well into the 19th century. However, that didn't occur for nearly a century later with the expeditions to find Teguayo in 1776, as we discussed last week. This map also shows Santa Fe and Lake Kansas. Apparently, the knowledge of the Kansas tribe was known of during this time, and yet they are also depicting an area known as Quivira. Why is the interesting part at the top of the map with all these amazing finds all throughout this map? The Royal Academy of Sciences in Paris was one of the most prominent scientific institutions in Europe, established under the reign of Louis XIV in 1666. It became a cornerstone for the development of modern science during the Enlightenment period. During the French Revolution, the Academy was dissolved, 1793, but was later reorganized into the Institut de France as the Académie des Sciences in 1795. This approval by the Royal Academy indicates the growing recognition of these regions, suggesting they were already well understood by the time of Zatta's map. So the most premier science governance in the world considered this map to be an accurate depiction of the northwestern United States. I find it to be the most interesting aspect because this was closer to the time in which these locations were found, and I believe it to be more accurate than what we are currently led to believe.